What's up, everyone? Welcome to the 100th episode of the Boundless Business Podcast, guys. We did it. We made it here. And now we got to think about what's in the future. And it's kind of alluding to the topic at hand. But Justine, Larissa, welcome to the 100th episode. How you guys feeling?
Feeling happy. I'm
Feeling hydrated.
That's a good reminder. Good reminder. So, 100th episode. This wasn't part of the script, but guys, what's one of the biggest things we've learned in 100 of these episodes? What's going on? What were we thinking? What's one big takeaway?
Learning every day. I learned just today that I should set up a tripod. The fact that has not occurred to me in 100 episodes is still crazy to me, but that's what I'm learning. I'm learning every day.
I learned through our Spotify Wrapped recently that we were listened to in 6 countries, which boggles my mind. I don't know. If you're out there in a different country, hi. Thank you for listening.
We appreciate you. You loyal. Yeah. 100th is that even though we have plans sometimes, it's okay to go off script if we're feeling something in the moment, as long as we prioritize what we're here for, which is to serve everyone that's listening to us. So with that being said, Justine, we have a very interesting topic on this podcast. Can you tell the listeners what we're discussing?
Yeah, so today, to celebrate our 100th episode, we wanted to help our audience by setting some goals for 2024 and just helping them set a really big growth mindset for the year, if that's what they want to do. If they want to grow their business, we want to talk about strategies for how they can do that, and just give some tips and tricks for setting goals for growing your business in 2024. So let's start with just an overview of why you should be setting clear business goals and why now is a good time to start doing that.
Absolutely. So I am notoriously bad at sticking to goals because I have this lizard brain, which Larissa said earlier that I got to steal, of wanting to change things up much more frequently than is needed for success, right? You got to stick with something for a while to actually see the results of that. So and today's very important because as we start thinking about the new year, especially with a growth mindset, if you're listening to this podcast and you're not wanting to grow, then I appreciate you guys for listening to us, but we're here to help people grow and scale and make more money and impact more lives. So if you don't listen to us for that, then we still appreciate you, but hopefully our jokes are enough to entertain and help you. So one of the biggest problems that Larissa and I face is often when someone comes to us wanting to grow, there's some commonalities that we hear, which is, I want to get as many customers as possible. And whenever someone says that, the whole conversation switches to a goal setting conversation, which is, that's great. You can, we want you to serve as many people as possible. But at a certain point, there is some ceilings that you're going to hit with quality, with labor, with money to spend to acquire those customers. So conversations like this is very important because if we don't know exactly where we're going, we can't figure out what the best resources, tools, methods are going to be to help get you there. So I just want to start this conversation off with that's why when you go to a marketer, it's much more valuable to you to figure out where you're going and how the marketer could help get you there. Because if not, you might be sold things that could be helpful, but not to what you need right now. For instance, if you need customers tomorrow, it's a whole different conversation than if you need customers in a year. So, for instance, SEO might be a great tool, search engine optimization, for long-term sustained growth or lead generation, but probably won't see leads today. And if you need leads today, you got to do something else different. So, I just want to set the expectations for why this matters because it impacts everything.
Yeah, of course. Making sure that we have clear, measurable, and achievable goals is ultimately the most important thing. Nico mentioned this earlier, but goal setting is very important. And when we say goal setting, a really good way to think about this is to think about timeliness. How soon do you need to start seeing this growth? What do you have to invest in it? How what resources do you have available to be able to do so, as well as making sure that we can use data and that we can set out the goals in such a way that we have an appropriate amount of time to accomplish those goals, right? And I like to think about things from like a much bigger picture and then kind of chunk down into smaller bits. So for example, if your goal for 2024 is to maybe grow your revenue by 25% compared to 2023's revenue, that's a significant growth. That's an awesome goal. Definitely support meeting that. But that doesn't mean your January revenue is going to grow 25%. That doesn't mean your February revenue is going to grow 25%. It's going to be up and down and up and down. So you need to have the bigger picture and then break it into smaller chunks to be able to understand like how you actually achieve those goals and what's reasonable.
Yeah, absolutely. So for especially home services based companies, just to kind of echo what Larissa said, beginning of the year, you tend to make a lot more money than you do at the tail end of the year. And what you want to do is, especially look at your historical data. So if you want to grow at 25%, look at your historical data, figure out what months you grow maybe like 50%, and then some months you grow 0%. Or you might even shrink a little bit, and you want to account for that in your planning. So I'm a huge fan of adjusting your goals, especially if you start hitting them. But you also want to look at things from like a timeline basis. Like just because you do awesome one month doesn't mean necessarily you're going to do awesome the next month. And the cool thing is if you have data, you can actually predict that. But anyway, there are multiple strategies to grow. So first thing what I would do is pause this podcast and figure out what your goal is. Maybe it's, let's say you're a window installer. Maybe it's how many additional windows you're going to install a month. Maybe you're a turf company, and maybe you're thinking about how many like additional like 5K packages for artificial turf you're going to sell. So really like put that down on paper. And there could be a high level goal, there can be a conservative goal, maybe somewhere in the middle is where you want to fall. But figure out what that is. Then let's figure out, walking backwards, on what are the key steps, the goalposts that we need to hit that. So let's say, for instance, you want to install one new yard every single one backyard turf package, for instance, once a month or once a week for 12 months, right? So there's 4 weeks in a month, 12 months in a year. So 12 times 4 is 48. So you need to figure out, how do we get 48 different jobs, right? That might be a variety of sources to get there. So you can figure out then how many leads did I get last year that led to a job. Let's say it's 10 leads led to one job. Now we can take the 48 jobs that we need times by 10, and then we need 480 leads. And then you can get specific and figure out, okay, what's our short-term goals to get leads and what's our long-term goals. So one of your long-term goals might be to utilize and optimize your digital presence, for instance. It might be, how do we make our pages much more easily shareable? Maybe it's how we build a referral program. Maybe how we get people to post about us. Maybe how we post to get people. Larissa, do you want to kind of talk about how we maybe achieve leads in the short term, for instance?
For sure, yeah. If you're looking to increase the total number of leads, there's a bunch of things you can do. The crux of it is always going to be get in front of more people, right? So that's going to be the biggest part. Like if you want to be getting more leads, the easiest thing to do that is just to get in front of more people. Well, there's actually two ways. So one, you could optimize and you could make your current funnels or whatever more productive and get more leads out of those. Or you can focus on expansion, get in front of more people, maybe at the same optimization levels as what you're currently doing, and then that will kind of funnel in. So there's two different ways to do it. The one way is always going to be make what you have better, and the other way is going to be increase what you already have to get more. So there's just so many different ways that kind of fall into each of those buckets. So what Nico mentioned, optimizing your current pages, those are things that are probably going to make what you have better. In a lot of cases, you're going to want to just get more. Maybe you're not looking to optimize your page any further. There's not anything else to do, or What you have to do maybe is long-term SEO, and that's just going to take a really long time. To Nico's point, that's not going to get you leads probably today. SEO is a long game. Maybe that'll take a good 6 to 8 months before you really start seeing results from that. However, going back, if you are, let's say, looking for leads today and you want to increase that volume immediately, consider online advertising. There's a bunch of ways you can basically pay your way into just being put in front of a bunch more people with your specific offer. Other things you can do that will do both of those things will be prioritizing getting reviews on platforms like Google and Yelp. The reason that kind of works on both is that what those do is those do help your SEO, those do help how search engines prioritize you and your business, as well as make your business seems more credible. Typically, reviews will pay for themselves over time. They'll improve your conversion rates. They're going to do a bunch of things for you. But those types of strategies, in terms of like getting more reviews, you need to have the jobs in the first place. So I would say if your goal is immediate growth, focus on ways you can get in front of more people, more new people. Probably the most effective, quickest, and easiest way to get results quickly would be through digital advertising. And if you need a digital advertising partner, shameless plug, we help with that. If you have longer term optimization strategies that you have in mind to help improve these goals, you can also go those routes as well. And I do want to note there's other ways to meet certain goals instead of maybe your goal doesn't need to be increasing number of leads or increasing number of jobs. Maybe your goal needs to be increasing job profitability or increasing job value, things along those lines.
Yeah.
If you get the same number of leads you did this year versus last year, but the average job value is 25% higher, you're still going to meet that 25% increase in revenue goal. So there's, as the old saying goes, right, many ways to skin a cat. Like there's lots of different ways to accomplish the goal you're reaching. It just matters what makes sense for you, what makes sense for your market, what makes sense for your team, what you can fulfill on, and then how you can grow to meet those goals.
Yeah, absolutely. So in kind of concluding like this, like you got to figure out what you want. Is it more leads, more jobs, more profit? Like really, like let's get clear on that. Let's assign a value to that, right? Let's say that each window job is $10,000, or each turf job is $5,000, whatever that is. Assign a value, because then you can move on to the next phase, which is you can actually start budgeting for that. And a rule of thumb that we use is about 10% of the project should be considered for the marketing cost to get that. So let's say you have a $10,000 project. You want to divide that by 10%, which means $1,000 is what you can spend in marketing to get that deal, right? So this
Slight
could
clarification, multiply by 10%. Don't divide.
Sorry, multiply. Yeah, multiply by 10%. Will get you $1,000 that you can then spend. And you can start thinking about, where do I allocate that money? Now, a lot of people hear $1,000 and they think, oh my goodness, like that's crazy. And that's why Larissa mentioned profit as well, right? You want to make sure this is profitable, right? So let's say your labor and material costs are 50%, your sales is 10%, your marketing is 10%, you walk away with then 30% profitability in this scenario. Your numbers vary based on this. So you definitely want to prioritize this, but as a rule of thumb for marketing, 10% of jobs should come from marketing. So you want to figure out what's the most bang I can get for my buck in regards to that. If third parties cost you $100 a lead and they send you 10 leads, you have to close 1 in 10. Otherwise, the math doesn't make sense for this project. So you want to continuously start looking for what's the goal, work backwards into saying how much can I spend to acquire a customer, and then you can figure out all the other numbers that lead up to it, whether it's direct mail, whether it's referrals, whether it's advertising, whether it's SEO, whatever that is. You want to be able to then set a budget up for what you can afford, and if you go over, then you have to figure out how do I change that, and if you go under, you want to see how I can double down on that, because everyone thinks about it, oh, what if I go over? The answer is but they never think about the other side, which is like, what if I go under budget? Then you have more profit and you can put more stuff into growth mechanisms, for instance. So whatever that is, right? Hiring canvassers, salespeople, you really want to figure out what the goal is, and then figure out how much it's going to cost, and then you want to figure out what are the mechanisms to make sure that happens? Because what we could honestly be looking at is like, how do we decrease operation costs? Maybe you don't need to grow, but you have to figure out the inefficiencies inside the business to get the profit that you need. So the answer is figure out your goal, figure out how much it's going to cost or what you should spend on it, and then figure out the mechanisms to get it there. And again, shameless plug, we are going into the new year. It's going to be a very busy year. Like, I think 2024 is going to be amazing for your business. We'd love to be a part of that. So if you have any questions, email me at nico@balancemedia.com, and I will see if we can help you out there. But team, any closing remarks that we have on this?
Just that, set awesome goals for 2024 and then go out and figure out how to accomplish them.
And another shameless plug before we end it off, but we do have a ton of podcast episodes. We're on episode 100. We have tons of episodes about all of these strategies that we talked about today. So definitely recommend going through our playlist that we have of every episode and see what helps you out there.
Yeah. Awesome. Thank you guys for making 100 episodes amazing. Really appreciate both of you for being amazing co-hosts on this, and we will see you guys on the next episode. Peace.